TV Crazy Man here with some wild goofs and special effects facts from the 80s TV sci-fi series Automan that showed us what Tron would look like as a superhero series.
Go ahead. Do the world a favor.
First up, let's look at some crazy superhero goofs from
Automan.
On the episode The Great Pretender. The scene starts off with a taxi pulling up. The driver activates an explosive device and gets out of the car, revealing the passengers to be a man and a woman in a blue dress. Then the camera goes to Walter, played by Desi Arnaz Jr., wearing a different colored suit than the man we saw a second before. Then the camera shows us the superhero Automan, played by Chuck Wagner, sitting right where we saw what looked like a woman in a blue dress just a second before.
A timing device. Uh-oh.
Realizing that there's a bomb on a taxi, Automan tells Walter to merge, one of Automan's powers where he basically can protect a human the way Tony Stark's suit of armor protects him.
Merge!
In this case, right before the merge, Automan looks like he's fell asleep, and you can hear his voice, but his lips don't move.
Merge!
As Desi Arnaz Jr. explained on the Automan DVD special features, Wagner would have to stay really still while the cameraman would film one half of the effect. Then Desi would film his part. In this case, it looks like they slowed Chuck Wagner down so much they caught him in between blinks. Probably so they could make the merge work from this angle. That's a guess on my part, of course. Now, according to Glenn Larson, a couple of guys who'd worked on Tron met with him one day, and together they came up with Automan. Automan's costume was covered with reflective panels. And according to Chuck Wagner, they created a traveling mat to follow these panels along to create an open window where the panels were. Then they would add the Tron-like star effect or anything they wanted, such as the times you could see movies on top of Automan. There was an old TV entertainment series back then called PM Magazine that had a special segment on Automan that shows the kind of reflective tape that was used, the same kind they used on all of Automan's vehicles as well.
Wow, so this is the world of Automan.
On the first episode, there's a scene where Automan walks up and you can see his true reflection in the door, showing the panels without the special effects added. So this is what he might have looked like before effects were added. Forgive my crude photo editing here. If the show were filmed today, his suit might look something like this with green screen panels. Again, I know it's very crude.
The terrible thing is it all makes sense.
Now, I did find one thing slightly off on Automan's costume, and it's not noticeable very often, but as Chuck Wagner was a pretty tall guy at 6'4" tall, you wouldn't think it would be necessary to give him high-heeled boots that looked like something Prince would wear. There's a funny bit where every time Automan takes a sharp turn in the auto car, Walter gets thrown around the car. The only problem is that in all the episodes, why doesn't Walter ever think to ask Automan for seatbelts? Of course, I didn't think anything of it back in the day because back in the 1980s, nobody I knew ever wore seatbelts. In case you wondered, the auto car was indeed a real Lamborghini. Now, Chuck Wagner said on a DVD interview the car scenes were filmed at a low speed and then shown at normal speed, making the car look like it was going super fast. And then the 90-degree turns were just cut and paste. I'm guessing he meant that they basically just clipped the part out where the car was turning, skipping ahead a second, making it look instantaneous. On the episode, Staying Alive While Running a High Flash Dance Fever. Even though Chuck Wagner was a school dancer, you can see a replacement was thrown in for the more difficult moves.
Didn't look a thing like me, and it is the most embarrassing and yet very funny swaps.
On the episode, Ships in the Night. Bad guys throw Walter out of a plane, but if you look over to your right, you can see where it appears as if the sky backdrop is tied down to a pole. Then we see it again when Automan jumps out to save Walter. Then on the very edge to your right, there's something that probably shouldn't be seen in the middle of the sky. But we'll give him this one as it was probably cut off on most 80s TV sets. But right before Automan jumps, Walter changed his clothes on the way down. I mean, what a time to be worried about your wardrobe. But he changes his clothes back again in time to be saved by the autoplane. Which reminds me, as you probably already guessed, the autoplane was actually a miniature, unlike the autocar and the helicopter, which were real. Which also reminds me of why the show was canceled. The series cost a lot of money. The stars of the show reported it cost up to or over $1 million an episode to make, which was a lot of money back then. Cursor was Automan's sidekick, who would create Otto's vehicles and whatever else might be needed. At a time before CGI, it may surprise you to know that Chuck Wagner had said that the cursor was actually animated the old hand animation style. The actors would either pretend cursor was actually there or be looking at a tennis ball on a stick, and cursor would be added in later. On the episode, The Biggest Game in Town, everybody is chasing this guy, who wrecks his new Corvette, which starts to smoke. Then they show us this part of the car on the road catch on fire somehow, and the car itself is smoking. They pull the dude out of the car and we hear an explosion. But as we see the car on fire, it strikes me a little odd that the wheels were neatly leaned up against the car. It just seems strange that an explosion would do that. On the episode Renegade Run, you may get a feeling of deja vu when you watch the motorcycle segments that were also used on the File Guy in December of 1981. This Automan episode aired in March of '84. Don't get me wrong, the motorcycle jumps were awesome, and I miss the days of seeing great stunts on television, but the idea that they jumped the car without a ramp is impossible. Also, I bet the white truck was actually going really slow so the motorcycles could pull this jump off. The Pinto was in fact going as fast as it could without exploding. There was another case of deja vu in the episode Death by Design, when they reused the same crash from the first episode but different drivers. Even though the series only lasted 13 episodes from the end of '83 to '84, it produced a few toy collectibles. Did you see or own one of these toys? I wonder if those binoculars actually worked. I have this strange feeling that I actually did see this toy in a store years ago. Didn't everything in the 70s and 80s have a bubblegum card set? Now this one I would have loved as a kid. So did you see anybody dressed like Automan for Halloween?
Are you game?
Well, I started off as one.
Now I do remember the little flashlights they used to sell. I think I had a Superman one though. I was never into the play money. Just give me the real stuff.
Donkey Kong, Pac-Man.
Yes. I know him quite well.
Now I do remember loving puzzles. I would spend hours putting things like that together. But I never had Automan. Now this one would have been fun too, but I never had it. I had those Hot Wheels sets where the wheels would bend in the little cars after you jump them enough times. And now let's look at some quick trivia facts about the actors. Did you know that Desi Arnaz Jr. is the son of the legends from I Love Lucy, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball? He also starred on Here's Lucy, playing Lucy's son. He stayed out of the spotlight mostly over the last few years, though. Chuck Wagner, who played Automan, has mostly done work in the theaters over the years. Robert Lansing went on to be a regular on two other series, Kung Fu The Legend Continues and The Equalizer, before he passed away in 1994. Gerald S. O'Loughlin passed away in 2015. Probably the longest running series he worked on was Our House and The Rookies. Heather McNair last credited work was in 2010 on the TV movie Aunt Heather's Magical Kitchen, which was also Desi Arnaz Jr.'s last credited appearance. If you like this video, check out my other TV Superheroes playlist for lots of great TV superhero facts, goofs, special effects, and more.
What?
And if you like rare superhero sci-fi shows, check out my video on a show you may have forgotten about. A show about a man raised by wolves named Lucan. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Please like the video and comment. I appreciate it. Thanks and have a great day.